This game is still a linear single-player experience, just like the first one, where you get to control two protagonists along different yet intertwining storylines. You start off as Ellie, and later on in the game, you switch to Abby. This switch happens a few times before the grand finale of the game. In this video, I will outline my opinions of the game. The game mechanics is basic and there is little improvement from the prequel. Character controls and gunplay are similar to that of the prequel. Enemy AI has some improvements as they are now able to subdue or flank you during gun fights. Player motion was improved. Evasion techniques such as lying prone and dodging were added to enhance combat. QTE platforming was also introduced. Generally, the AI on NPC is poor. Apart from flanking features, it's very easy to avoid enemies in this game with the crouch and prone mechanics. Friendly NPCs still remain invisible to enemies just like in the first game. In a gunfight, your friendlies are ineffective and incompetent. The bulk of the fight is ultimately still left to the player. Their weapon accuracy is very low. This can ruin immersion, especially when playing alongside the powerhouse Joe. Let's talk about the guitar real quick. In this game, you can actually play the guitar as Ellie. Now, I personally suck at the playing guitars, but it was fun to play the mini game as you get to play some cool chords. Of course, what is a AAA title without glitches nowadays? And yes, this one has them too. The game has significantly better graphics than most releases for this generation of PlayStation titles. Character modeling, texturing, animation, and lip syncing were as realistic as needed to portray the dystopian world that was ravaged by a fungal apocalypse. In my opinion, the Naughty Dog team did a very good job. Music, sound effects, and voice acting was exceptionally done. The voice actors did an amazing job conveying the emotions of the characters effectively. Enemy NPCs were improved by adding more dialogue, like calling out to their mates, talking about their day, announcing their position, or calling out to dead teammates, a feature that adds a bit of complexity to the NPC characters. The characters were written to behave in very self-contradictory, unpredictable, and sometimes illogical ways. The characters we know, Joe, Ellie, Tommy, yeah, those characters, just forget about them. You know the characters you know from the first game? Yeah, pretend like those characters don't exist anymore. Those characters in this game, they have the same name, but they're totally different. And the new characters are presented in such a way as to contradict their beliefs and missions from time to time. For example, Abby takes a group out on a manhunt across the USA, kills Joe, and spares the surrogate daughter Ellie. And she abandons a group of kids at a shipping container, grows a conscience after a dream, and sets out to rescue them. Abby's inconsistent decision-making is never properly explained. When confronted by Ellie, Joe does not defend his actions when he saved her life in the prequel. This was to justify the portrayal of Joe as a bad guy. The Joe we know is very meticulous, even to the point of paranoia. As a protagonist, he lost everything at the death of Sarah, became an empathetic anti-hero for survival, and with the introduction of Ellie, was transitioned into a father figure, a man that learned to reveal his vulnerabilities again. He is willing to do whatever it takes to survive. Joe was not the type you wanted to go against in an apocalypse, and having a purpose like a community to protect will make him a lot more dangerous to those that stand against him. He may not be stronger due to his age in this sequel, but he's expected to be more paranoid, smarter, wiser. You don't survive that long by making foolish decisions, such as walking into a room with a bunch of strangers without any security. What happened to Tommy? Tommy in this game has completely lost his edge. We are given an older and an incompetent man who could not wait to greet a bunch of strangers with his name and a handshake. Let's talk about the convenient events that led up to Joe's death. Joe's death begins with Abby and her ex-boyfriend Owen scoping the Jackson settlement from the top of a mountain, strategizing on how they would get to the person they were after. Owen mentions to Abby that the settlement has a lot of people and that it might be difficult to carry out the mission given the amount of firepower down there. Abby suggests to Owen that they could corner one of the patrols and get them to confirm Joe's location with torture. Owen was reluctant with torturing an innocent person to get to Joe. Abby finds out the reason why Owen was reluctant to go along with the plan was because Mel, his new girlfriend and Abby's friend, was pregnant. And also Owen tries to explain to Abby that if the rest of their friends that they came with saw the sheer size of the settlement, that they would want to go back and abandon the mission. They both argue. Owen decides to go back to the lodge. Abby decides to carry out the mission by herself. As Abby makes her way down the mountain, she manages to attract the attention of a horde of zombies, or infected, as she tries to escape the horde of infected by crawling through a wall and a barbed wire gate, with the infected on the other side pushing against Abby and the wall. Abby almost made it out the other end when an infected broke the gate, got on top of her, was about to kill her when Joe burst out of nowhere to save Abby's life. If only Joe knew, he would have helped the infected instead of She-Hulk. Okay, this is where everything just went to shit. After saving Abby, Joe, Tommy, and She-Hulk, after surviving a barrage of attack, when they had a few moments to gather themselves, what does Tommy Boy do? Tommy proceeds to tell the fucking stranger their name, and both these imposters, that's Joel and Tommy, takes the stranger up on her suggestions to ride to her friends back at the lodge. No question as to who this girl was, what she was doing close to our settlement, and what's this talk about her having friends close by. None of the important questions a competent post-apocalyptic survivor would ask, especially one who's tasked with protecting a community full of innocent people. Where do I even begin? First of all, Tommy offering their name was not like him. This was the same Tommy from the first game who pointed his weapon at Joe and Ellie when they were trying to enter his community. This fucking game is trying to tell me that with age and experience, the same Tommy is stupid enough to give his name to a fucking stranger. Don't even get me started on Joe. People who are trying to defend this game made the point that Joe was tired and has settled into his new life at the Jackson settlement. But this is why that argument falls apart. In the first game, Jackson settlement was attacked by a group of people. Joe, Tommy, and others managed to fend them off. That attack would explain why Tommy and co were so on edge when Joe tried to get into their community. Now, how many more times do you think that Jackson was attacked after the first one we were shown in the first game? How many more times do you think they allowed some power-hungry household who starts causing trouble down the line and somebody has to take good care of them, probably Joe or Tommy? The reason why I went on this little tirade is that Joe and Tommy would have had to defend Jackson from both infected and humans trying to take what they have, because as much as Joe is living in a community now, the surviving never stops. I would even argue that it would get worse, because it's not just Joe and Ellie now. It's Joe, Ellie, Tommy, Maria, Jesse, Dina, and so many other people. You get what I'm trying to say here. Joe is not taking a vacation at Bahamas, right? The apocalypse is still on and going, except Joe is not a lone wolf anymore. He has a community to protect, and I don't know about you, but that does not make a hardened survivor complacent all of a sudden. And also, the game made it seem like Abby didn't even know what Joe looked like. How the fuck did she know she was getting the right Joe? All she heard was Joe. I don't even think they said Joe Miller. It could have been Joe Benson. You see what I mean? Joe's death was poorly done. The writers wanted to kill him off early in the game so that the story of this game could happen. It was rushed, lazy, and contrived. The death of Joe was not an execution. It was a torture. This scene is designed to step up the misery of the game. This scene betrays the intentions and the forced messaging by the writers. We get it, guys. Joe is this bad villain that should be severely punished. At the end of the scene, a character spits on Joe's corpse to send a message from the makers of this game to the players that loved Joe. We hear you guys loud and clear. Ellie has been transformed from the sunny little girl we met in the first game into a nasty, angsty, and selfish person. The way this monster treats Joe is demonstrable. She blames Joe for robbing her of her death. I was supposed to die at that hospital. My life would have mattered, but you took that from me. Your death would have mattered? You made this man care about you when he wanted to leave you with his brother because of the PTSD from losing his daughter. If your death meaning something was more important to you, you should have left Joe and went with his brother to go get murdered. Just selfish and ungrateful. Ellie being immune means nothing in this game, while in the first game she almost died because of it. Also, remember the efficient Ellie that wiped out a team of marauders that tried to kill Joe in the first game? Yeah, that Ellie. This Last of Us Part 2 gives us an Ellie that is making a bunch of stupid and inconsistent decisions. She spares Abby at the last moment when she has the opportunity to strike the final blow. She makes this decision after a flashback of beat up Joe dying on the floor. Shouldn't that memory trigger an opposite reaction? Does the death of a loved one inspire the conclusion of revenge, or doesn't it? As this game is telling us, promote forgiveness. Speaking of Abby's dad, I have a very important question. Is he the decrepit old evil scientist we shot in the first game, or the smooth-faced zebra-saving medical doctor with a hero complex? in The Last of Us Part 2. He saved the fucking zebra, fellas. He's a good guy. Love him. Why does he want to kill Ellie first? Have you considered other options in creating a vaccine? And why are we in such a hurry to create a vaccine for a world that has fallen to a fungal virus for years now? How do you mass produce that vaccine with abject scarcity of resources? But let's not think about all the important stuff. Let's just kill this young girl who walked into our lab in hopes of figuring out a vaccine. If Ellie is the one and only person so far that you guys have encountered that has these resistant traits, don't you think that keeping her alive as long as possible is the best course of action? No, let's just dissect her right now and rummage through her parts. Abby's dad is either dumb or out of his mind. This dude brought a scalpel to a gunfight with Joe. I'll say it again, Joe is the person you pray not to meet or pray will be on your side when you meet him. And this idiot or mental patient challenges a man who just shot his way up a makeshift hospital with a fucking scalpel. He must believe strongly in his science or he's seeing imaginary zebras being attacked by Joe. Finally, there's an option to shoot Abby's dad in the foot without raising the kill counter in the first game. This can be considered as a retcon, as players can decide not to kill the She-Hulk's psychopathic dad, keeping her the sweet little girl she was meant to be in his murderous arms, saving more zebras. If anybody wanted Abby's dad dead, it was Naughty Dog's writers. They killed him off so that the story of this game can happen. Abby is the most controversial introduction in this game. She's pretty much replaces Joe in this game. Abby's gameplay is like Joe in the first game. She's stronger, can take on enemies with her bare hands. She's also the most protected character addition that has led to a lot of gag orders, channel takedowns, online defense, and an embargo on the first 12 hours of the game. Someone really wanted her in this game, and someone really wanted you to love her. She embodies the theme of the entire game plot. Forced. Every positive emotion you feel for her feels forced. Every single emotion except hate, the anger, and annoyance. Or maybe that's what they wanted. The plot itself is so disorganized in a bid to take us on an emotional roller coaster. The writers present Abby, who murders Joe in order to make us hate her. Then the story tries so hard in so many ways to make Abby likable. Folks, she has friends that adore her. She takes care of children. She loves her dad. And she plays fetch with her dog. Nice try, Naughty Dog. I'm not buying it. We still hate this bitch. Let's not forget the pregnant male going out on missions. What an excellent idea that was. A woman tethering on the edge of giving birth, going out on an extremely dangerous world, and none of her friends that claim to love or care about this woman try to persuade her not to go. Everyone is like, yeah, sure, looks like your water is about to break anytime soon. Don't worry about it. Just come with us and become a liability on our mission. Maybe the clickers will help us birth this damn child. I would have bought it if Mel was in like early stages of pregnancy and her belly wasn't showing. But even if that was the case, you would still think that somebody would persuade her not to go because it is stressful out there and she could lose the damn child. What the fuck? Why didn't the writers put Nora on that mission instead of pregnant Mel? And when Mel is asked whether Owen is okay with it or not, what does she say? Why would it be up to Owen? I don't know. Maybe because Owen is the father of the fucking child? Holy shit. A woman carrying life, a medical doctor, I would argue, is one of the most vital individuals in a post-apocalyptic world. And having her go out on a dangerous mission is so dumb, it makes me want to explode. Or maybe the community secretly hated her. You know how Neil Druckmann is so meta in his story writing. You have to kind of read between the lines to understand his genius. After all that Abby does in this game, she did not show remorse. Why didn't the story explore her mind? Show us what she was thinking. This would have been a way to convince us of her justification for revenge. And nowhere in this game do they show us Abby conflicted with her actions of killing Joe. Rather, when revenge becomes revenge, dear Abby is shocked that her friends were killed as a result of her own actions. After brutally battering Joe to the point of death with his brother Tommy, who was passed out at the time, a young lady, Ellie, was crying and pleading for you not to kill him, making promises to find and kill you. What does She-Hulk do? This sweet angel finished Joe off like a post-workout shake, taking it straight to the head and let everyone else live. Smart. The writers wanted us to believe that morally ambiguous Abby wouldn't have killed Ellie and Tommy. Tommy, but spared them because Abby good, Joe bad. Remember that, because Abby is not like Joe. She's kind and not capable of killing innocent people. This jacked apple must have not fallen far from the zebra-saving, morally decrepit tree. The writers nailed it on this one. How many fucked up shit did she have to do to survive in this new world? Like Joe, I have said it before and I will say it again. In a world like this, either you are capable of doing all the horrible shit to survive, or you have someone who is. In the theater, after killing Jesse and kicking Tommy, Abby says, "We'll let you live and you wasted it." What did you think was gonna happen when you let them live? You should have killed them back at that house where you killed Joe. I think this is the writer's way of trying to show us that Abby is not like Joe, that she is a good person. Look, Abby just wanted to come, cave Joe's head in, and disappear into the night with her friends and go live at the rec center. And the entire game's message is to depict Joe as a monster that deserves condemnation in a world filled with monsters. What makes Abby better than Joe? Also, she keeps alternating from a normal person, a friend to a friend, protector to the weak, and a dog mom, to a complete murderous psychopath, ready to cut the throat of a pregnant woman in front of Ellie, knowing that she was important to Ellie. Again, what is up with these people and their hate of pregnant women? And Abby tries to justify her murderous rampage with lines like, "They deserved it." We get it that Abby wants to go for revenge, but why build muscle? How about learning how to traverse the terrain, learn to climb, do some core and cardio and body weight training, target practice with guns and arrows? Excess muscle will increase your strength for sure, but can hinder your agility. I think the creators just wanted to give Abby muscles just to give her muscles. The only explanation we get was to show us a gym, and we all know how sleeping in the gym gets us all in shape and bulked up. That makes perfect sense, right guys? The Rock must have a very nice big gym he sleeps in all day and posts of his sleeping habits on Instagram. Abby mentions to another character of how much she lifts in order to inform us that she works out. Question: what does Abby eat? How many stores of ration did this chick empty in order to get to and maintain that body size? Or did the dad invent a testosterone shot that speeds up muscle building on food rations? We all know the crazy dog is a genius. If all I have said is the truth, Naughty Dog, why don't you write it in? I just tossed you a bone. Explain them gains. Naughty Dog, I don't think that's how that works. It would take a lot of training, a lot of sleep, most importantly, and contextualize important, lots of food to get to and maintain that body size. Again, one trip to The Rock's Instagram would have cleared all that lack of knowledge up. Also, you have to factor in some genetic and gender requirements in bodybuilding. It's almost like good old Neil likes the feminizing females. I don't know, it's kind of weird to me. Let's talk about it, guys. You knew it was coming. That sex scene. Wonder who mocapped this scene and with who? Do you want to know? And to ask the general question in this entire game, why? Especially factoring in that Sony likes to censor itty bitty dirty scenes, even mild ones. So those ones are bad, but this one is for some reason is a work of art. Doesn't make sense. In short, the story was boring and forgettable. The only reason why people gave a shit was because of the title, The Last of Us. And when it comes to dogs in this game, people collectively lost their minds. For me personally, I don't think it's a big deal. In a post-apocalyptic world, it's not that hard to imagine that people will train their dogs to attack people on command. For some reason, people think killing an animal who's trying to kill you is off the realm of possibilities. For a game that has a lot of things that didn't make sense, having dogs attack you makes a lot of sense to me. Can we talk about the false advertisements that made it seem as if Joe will be going on a revenge mission with Ellie? This tells me how much Naughty Dog wanted our money, knowing we won't love their game. We don't use the word fun, says The Last of Us 2 director Neil Druckmann. If I'm not having any kind of fun, it's pointless. The running theme in this game is misery. The game wants you to be miserable, but at the same time wants you to pay them cold hard cash, $60 at the time of release, for a box of misery. It's even worse given that the game was released in the year 2020, one of the worst years in people's lives. If there was ever a time to escape reality, it was in that year. But then again, some people are rich enough to buy a Russian domina by the name of Olga, to step on their balls, spit on them, call them Rabonya, or broke enough to blow their salaries on a Twitch thought. The good thing is, you don't need to play to understand anything. You don't need to buy it and play it for yourself. You can always watch videos on it. However, of course, it is your choice at the end of the day, feel free to by all means buy and play it for yourself. But if we keep rewarding terrible games, or in the case of The Last of Us Part 2, a direct insult from the developers Naughty Dog, they will continue to release them. Love when reviewers of this game say, hey, look, I had a horrible time playing this game, and it's a sentiment echoed by so many. But please, go and waste your $60 and be miserable and bored for 20 plus hours and experience it for yourself. Makes no sense to me. It's like going into a shit-filled room others have been into and are still going into, coming out with PTSD, and proceeds to tell others, please, by all means, go in and experience it for yourself. Of course, some people prefer that shizema, but the rest of us prefer proper hygiene. I posed a question to all the people who think this game did something profound. Do you think this game will still be talked about because of its riveting story, or the fact that it shares a similar title with its prequel? It's been almost 2 years. I will let you answer that one.
See, there's a sequel. Wasn't as good.